in order to start Parshas Pinchas, we really need to go to the end of next week's parsha, which is Parshas Balak. At the end of last week's parsha, and let's pick it up on page 874. So the Torah says like this. It's on page 874. It's 4 lines, 874, 4 lines from the top. It says, Vayeshev Yisrael b'Shittim. The Jewish people were in a place called Shittim. Vayochel ha'am liznos el benos Moav. The 2 people started sinning with the daughters of Moab. The Medrash says that the Moabites had, these are all nomads and, what are they called, the Bedouins. They set up a series of tents and where you could purchase things, and there would be an old lady standing on the outside and a young lady on the inside. So the Jewish men would come over to buy something, and then they'd talk to the old lady, and the old lady said, well, there's a saleswoman inside. And they'd go inside, and then the young lady would make sure it would serve them some alcohol, and the men would then get involved with the young lady. The alcohol is always the great social drink, and that's why they spike the punch bowls at all parties. That's why the girls dive in like fish. So then the next day they could say, "Oh, I can't believe I did that," because they could always say that I was drunk and what do you call, out of control. And so Vatikrena la'am zivcha Elohehan, they beckoned the people to offer to their gods. Vayochel ham vayishtu le'Elohehan. Vayitzamed Yisrael leVaal Peor. The Jewish people became attached to Baal Peor, which was this idol. Vayichar af Hashem b'Yisrael. God got angry at the Jewish people. Let's read a few psukim. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe kaches kol roshei ha'am. Take the heads of the people. V'hoka osam la'Hashem neged Hashemesh. How does the article translate v'hoka? Hang them before God. Opposite the sun. Vayoshav choronaf Hashem Yisrael. And God's wrath will be turned back. Now, Vayomer Moshe el Shoftei Yisrael. Moshe says to the Jewish judges, Hirgu ishas anoshav hanitzvadim levaal peor. Execute people who were involved with this worship Baal Peor. Now the Gemara says this Baal Peor was one of the most grotesque, bizarre forms of idol worship. Baal Peor involved defecating in front of the idol. And this idea of that's how they worship the idol, by relieving themselves in front of the idol. And the Gemara says that part of the idea over here is obviously if you can, it's a theme. It's really more of a theme than a worship. If you're willing to relieve yourself in front of the idol, then you're basically willing to do anything. And most cults, idol worships, and all these things always involve one way or another you get to immorality. One way or another immorality. The Gemara even says the Jewish people worshipped idols only to sanction public licentiousness. Once you do that, it's this is a form of worship. Hey, great, that's a lot better than going to shul and getting an aliyah. So you get involved. So you get involved in immorality. And so Baal Peor, the Gemara says there was once a Jewish man who came by past the priests of Peor, and he decided that he wants to insult the idol. So he walked up to the idol, and he relieved himself, and he cleaned himself on the idol's nose. He used the nose to clean instead of toilet paper. He used the idol's nose, and the priest started saying, "Wow, we've never seen anybody worship with such devotion." It was a pretty loathsome and grotesque form of idol worship. The Gemara says there was a woman who had worshipped every idol in the world, and when she got to, it doesn't say if she was Jewish or not Jewish, but she got to Peor, I think she was not well, and she was looking for some sort of cure. And so when he got to Peor, she said, "How do you worship this?" So he said, "Well, you drink some black beer. You eat, I think, barley, and you drink some black beer to loosens you up good and proper. And then you defecate in front of the idol." She said she should have every illness in the world than do that. For a woman, a little dignity, go and relieve yourself in public. So that's what this Baal Peor was, for whatever it stood for. Now, suddenly the Torah says, "Vihine ishmi b'nei Israel." Anytime it says "vihine," it means that there's a surprise over here. There's some sort of surprise, a surprise of some sort, something out of the ordinary. V'hidei ishmi b'nei Yisrael ba, a man from the Jewish people comes along. Vayakre v'la echav es hamidyanis. He brings the Midianite woman. Le'enei Moshe, le'enei b'nei kol hadas b'nei Yisrael. He brings along this Midianite woman in front of the entire Jewish people. V'hema bochim pesach Almoed. They're crying in the entrance of Almoed. So this Jewish man, who we'll find out later is the head of the tribe of Shimon, he takes a Midianite woman, and he goes and he takes her into a tent, right in the full view of everybody. Now, obviously, they're not going to discuss philosophy in the tent. He takes this Midianite, licentious Midianite woman into the tent. And he's obviously committing an act of public immorality in front of the entire Jewish people. Now, what do you do? What do you do? A guy is in there, a guy who is a leader of the Jewish people. He's consorting with a non-Jewish woman. What do you do? So the Torah says, Vayar Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen. Pinchas sees what took place here. Vayaka mitocha eda. He rises from among the people. Vayikach romach biyadoi. Pinchas takes a spear in his hand. Vayovo achar ish Yisrael el hakuba. He enters into the tent. How does he translate tent? Into the tent. Vayidkor es shneim. He stabs both of them. Es ish Yisrael v'esa isha el kavasa. He nails her right into her stomach, meaning right into the area where they are committing immorality. V'teyotar ha'magefa al-beis the plague stops. Vayu ha'mesid b'magefa arba v'esrim olef. So the Jewish people got involved with the Moabite girls. A plague started, and one of the leaders of the Jewish people comes out with a Midianite girl, who we find out is the daughter of the Midianite king, who sent his daughter to go and entice the Jewish leader. And he takes her in a full view of everybody. And Pinchas gets up and he takes a spear, vigilantism. It's called an act of vigilantism. You ever see the movie Death Wish? Charles Bronson? Yes. Great movie. Great movie. He was so cool. And what do you call it? And it works. Vigilantism works. It's a great. And Pinchas takes a spear and boom, he nails them right in the act, and he kills both of them. Now,
who's the?
We'll see who he is in a second. Now, what's going on over here? First of all, how does this follow the whole previous parsha? Was Bilam trying to curse the Jewish people? Bilam's trying to curse the Jewish people. And it doesn't work, and he tries to curse, and out comes a blessing. So then before he leaves, he says to Balak, let me give you a piece of advice. You want to get the Jewish people in trouble? Tempt them in the area of immorality. Their God hates immorality. The Gemara says God hates immorality. God hates people who walk around naked in the marketplace. Naked in the marketplace doesn't mean literally naked. People who seem to have clothing allergies, particularly females. God hates that sort of thing. So we live in a society which is obviously mad. And our society decides that indecency, if there's a lot of sand and water around, otherwise known as a beach, then it's okay if you walk around looking like a caveman, or a cave woman, right? But if you'd walk around downtown like that, we'd all be shocked, right? Depending on where you live, we'd all be shocked, right? If there's water and some sand around, then it's perfectly okay to go and put yourself in public display. And then wonder why your husband's running off with somebody. A foolish woman takes her husband down to the beach, and she's wondering why he's running off with a girl 20 years younger. Maybe instead of taking him to the beach, take him to a museum. You're much safer taking husbands to museums than to beaches. Okay, she decided to go to the beach. You don't get a suntan at the museum. And therefore, she went to the museum, and she's wondering why her husband has abandoned her. Okay, foolish woman. So here, the Midianites come along, and the Midianites say, hey, Bilam says, I got a great idea for you. You want to make the Jewish people stumble, get them involved in morality. That'll tick their God off. And sure enough, 24,000 people died. 24,000 people died. Okay, what does Pinchas do? Pinchas picks up a spear. And the Medrash says that it was a miracle that nobody stopped him, and it was a miracle. And he walks in and tags them. And he comes out, and he walks out, and he's got them both on the spear, parades them around the Jewish people. Very embarrassing situation to be in. Right? You're on the top of a spear with a Midianite woman. Uncomfortable and embarrassing. And he takes them around the Jewish people, and he parades them around and shows everybody what he killed. All right, and the plague stops. So first of all, the question becomes over here, you have a very interesting halacha. The Gemara discusses halacha. This is a halacha called Haboel Aramis Kanoim Pogimbo, one who consorts with a non-Jewish woman, somebody who is vigilant for the sake of God, Kanoim, what we call nowadays an extremist. Pogimbo, you're allowed to strike him down in the act. Now, the Gemara says there are certain rules that go with this. Number one, you have to make sure it's in the act. The Gemara says Zimri, who is the leader of the tribe, if he would have separated himself from this Midianite woman and he would have turned around and killed Pinchas, when Pinchas was coming at him with a spear, and he would have separated himself from her, and he would have turned around and killed Pinchas, he'd be innocent. Because the minute he separates himself, Pinchas is now a pursuer, according to halacha. In other words, the Beis Din does not execute a person for consorting with a non-Jewish woman. That's not a capital offense. But if somebody's consorting with a non-Jewish woman, if somebody is so vigilant for the honor of God, you're allowed to take a spear and kill him. Okay? Now, One of the limitations on this is that you have to be 100% motivated to serve God, which none of us could say we are, therefore we're not allowed to do this nowadays. First of all, if we were allowed to do it, we'd run out of spears. But you're not allowed to do it nowadays because nobody could come along and say, I am 100%. That means if Pinchas was 99% concerned about God's honor, and there's 1% of Pinchas that says, I hate this guy because he owes me money too, or I owe him money and the best thing is to knock him off, or he's a White Sox fan, right? And Pinchas says, and there's even 1 percentage point in there that Pinchas is a murderer, he's not doing a mitzvah. Pinchas is able 100%. Pinchas has 100% motivation to serve God. He's allowed to take vigilante action. And as a result of his vigilantism, he kills and puts an end to the plague. That's the background of the story over here. Okay, that's what happened in last week's parsha, the most dramatic, Now, a very important Rashi to see over here. Take a look at Rashi. Vehema bochim. It's in the left column, about 7 lines from the top. If you find it, show the person next to you. It says, Vehima bochim. The Jewish people are consorting. This guy takes the Midianite woman, and the Jewish people are crying. The leaders are crying. Why are they crying? You should be bothered by a question over here. Pinchas takes the spear and he kills her. Does anything about that bother you? Nothing about that bother you?
Was she not dead before?
She wasn't dead before. She was busy consorting with this Jewish man.
While she was speared?
No, after she was speared, she became dead. But but Pinchas takes the spear. Something about that should bother you. Pinchas takes the spear.
She's holding on to the spear.
Why didn't Moshe take the spear? Why didn't Moshe pick it up? Why didn't Moshe take action here? Why does Pinchas take action? Why did Moshe take action?
Moshe told him to.
Oh, so let's see what Moshe Rabbeinu's role was over here. The truth of the matter is that Moshe Rabbeinu was in a bit of a bind because this man had come and personally insulted Moshe Rabbeinu. Because he came to Moshe Rabbeinu, Rashi says he came to Moshe Rabbeinu with this Midianite and said, hey, she permissible or is she forbidden? And if you tell me she's forbidden, who permitted your wife? Moshe's wife was a Midianite.
That's right.
If you tell me she's forbidden, who permitted your wife? So Moshe already appears personally involved. Once you're personally involved, you're off limits on vigilantism. Pinchas picks up a spear. Now take a look at Rashi over here. Very telling Rashi, very important Rashi to see in life in general, in our own personal life. Rashi says, Vehema bochim. Everybody see it. It's the left column, 7 lines from the top. They were crying when they saw this, the Jewish leaders. Nis alma mimenu halacha. It was forgotten from Moshe Rabbeinu, forgot the halacha. Kol haboel aramis kanoim pogimbo. One who is consorting with a non-Jewish woman, so vigilant people or zealous people may strike him down. Ga'u kulam bivchia. Everybody was crying. And then skip down to the next Rashi, 2 lines later. Vayar Pinchas on pasuk Zayin. Says Vayar Pinchas saw. Says Rashi, Ra'a Maisa, he saw what was going on. V'nizkar halacha, and he remembered the halacha. Amar lo Moshe, he said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Mikublani mimcha, I have a tradition from you. When you came down from Sinai and you taught the Torah to the Jewish people, you also taught us Kabbalah. Kabbalah, I told you many times, Kabbalah doesn't mean mysticism. Kabbalah means that there's a tradition that was received. Mikublani mimcha, I received from you the lesson that Haboel Aramis, one who consorts with a non-Jewish woman, Kanaim Pogibo. Didn't you teach us that halacha? Omar lo, so Moshe said, Karaina de ikra sa'iu lehavi parvanka. The one who delivers the letter, he should carry out the contents. You thought of it, you do it. Okay, what's going on here? If you come out of a chumash year, let's say I start teaching you the laws of sacrifices, or the laws of borer on Shabbos, or the laws of some technical laws dealing with kashrus or shatnez. And then a couple of weeks later, I say to you, hey, do you remember those laws about shatnez? I don't remember something about wool. I'm not sure. Borer, do you remember exactly? But the good for I don't remember the details. I can understand a person not remembering details of that law. Moshe Rabbeinu comes down from Har Sinai, teaches them the entire Torah. So I'd imagine that the guys in the shir, when he was talking about shatnez in the laws, I can imagine people like, not so clear. It's not the most fair. Well, also Moshe says, okay, today's lesson, vigilantism, when a guy's consorting with a non-Jewish woman. Everybody's all ears. What? A little bit more interesting subject matter. That's a change of pace. How's that for a shir? You could take spears and kill people, right? You had a good teacher, great subject matter, And then Pinchas comes over and says, didn't you teach us a halacha that you're allowed to use? I mean, what, you don't remember? I guarantee you remember every detail of that halacha. That's one of those things. That's one of those things that you never forget. So why is Pinchas conferring with Moshe Rabbeinu? Why don't you just pick up the spear and go do it? Pinchas says, hey, didn't you teach us? You taught us there's a halacha over here. Yeah, you're right. You thought of it. You do it. Why are you checking with Moshe Rabbeinu? What, Pinchas didn't remember?
Is he trying to give him honor so that he can do it first?
Could be. It could be Pinchas is trying to honor Moshe. Why don't you take action? But there's another lesson here. Anytime you do anything dramatic in this religion, if you come up with a good idea for dramatic action in this religion, go check before you do it. If you got a great idea of shooting up some Arabs in a mosque and you think it's a wonderful idea, just go check with halachic authority first. I think this would be a good idea. Go check with somebody first. If it's such a good idea, they'll be doing it for you. You know how many times I've been asked over the years, guys have said to me, should we do a mitzvah? Should we go downtown and beat up missionaries? Well, no. If I had $1 for every time they'd ask me, I'd have more dollars than I have now. I don't know exactly how much I'd have, but I have plenty of dollars. Yeah, guys have asked me, should we go downtown and beat up missionaries? Right? Why? It's a mitzvah, beat up missionaries. Listen, you want to do mitzvahs? I got plenty of mitzvahs for you to do. There's a base medrash right over there. Why don't you open up a chumash? That's also a mitzvah. Nobody asks about that. Rabbi, should we put on tefillin? Nobody asks about that. Should we go beat up missionaries? Now we're talking. Because missionaries, you get people like CNN might be there. It's a lot more fun and hands-on than learning theoretical subjects about Beis Din and Makos and that sort of thing, right? Listen, we're taking the Gemara that we learned Makos and we want to put it into action now. We want to go down and beat up missionaries. The answer is you got a great idea. Why don't you run it past somebody? If it's such a wonderful idea, they'll be there. And if they're not there, if Rabbi Samet isn't doing it, he's also from. And if Rav Samet isn't doing it, so then you shouldn't be doing it either. And if you got a great idea that's going to involve drama, go check, because there's part of you, and the rule in life is, anytime you're excited about a mitzvah, it's probably not a mitzvah, right? Because most people aren't that excited about running a show and putting on tefillin. Oh, good, tefillin, 7 o'clock in the morning, and it's nice and frosty outside, and I'm tired. Yeah, my favorite. Leather at 7 a.m. That's how most people are not that excited. Most people are not that excited about putting on tefillin. All of a sudden, you're excited. You want to go beat up a missionary. What are you so excited about? The mitzvah or the beating up? I haven't beaten up anybody in a while. Let's go. My brother's not here right now. I'm in Israel. I'm looking for something. Yeah, you got an idea. Pinchas, a very good. He knew the halacha. You're about to do something direct. Just double check. Just double check before you run around with a spear. Right? Just go double check. They had a guy in Chicago. It's pretty funny. In Chicago, O'Hare Airport, it's a big airport. It used to be the biggest airport in the world. Atlanta's bigger now. Hartsfield Airport. O'Hare used to be the biggest airport. At least Chicago was number one in something. And so they even now they aren't. And they what do you call number one in crime. So they went to they had these missionaries, and the missionaries would bother you. You'd get off a plane. And some weird guy, say, hi, my name is Rainbow. Do you want to read about a religion? I'd shove a book in your face or something. And it was getting to the point where it was hassling people. So somebody in Chicago came up with a great idea. They took these clackers. They had these little click, 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 click. So the missionaries would come up and start bothering you. What are they called?
For the dogs.
It's a little clicker, a little clicker. So the missionaries would start coming in the airport, and it became a shtick. Missionary comes over, you click, 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 you click the missionaries. So eventually they passed a law. The missionaries cannot wander around the airport. They roped off an area for them. They stood in this area, almost like a cage. And and as people would back, they say, hey, do you want to read? My name is Rainbow. You want to read about? They would just walk past. So one day this missionary comes over to a policeman in Chicago. He comes over to a policeman in the airport. He says, hey, I was standing behind the roped off area, and this guy came over to the rope, and he started clicking me in the roped off area. So the cop said, really? He pulled out his clicker, click, 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 click. He clicked them away. So if a person has an idea, you want to blow up the dome of the rock. Right, let's blow up the dome. I had a friend in high school, a very deep guy. He told me he couldn't wait for Mashiach to come because he wanted to see the Golden Dome get blown up. He was a very deep guy. Right, I think he's in prison. So he couldn't wait to see the dome get blown up. That was for Mashiach. He wanted Mashiach for blowing up the domes. You got a great idea. You want to blow up the dome? Why don't you check with somebody? Ask Rabbi Zweig if it's such a good idea. Because if you blow up the dome, one of two things is going to happen. It's either a great idea, Mashiach is going to come, or you're going to trigger off World War III. And there's very little in between. It's nothing par. It's not going to be par. It's not like nobody's going to notice. Now, people will, if you blow up that dome, somebody's going to notice. And so something's going to happen here. So if you have such a great idea, just check. That's the first thing Pinchas teaches us. Okay? Now, let's go to the next page. Let's see what the results of this are. Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe lemor. God says to Moshe the following. Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen, Heshiv es chamasi me'al b'nei Israel. He turned back my wrath from the Jewish people. Bikan oes kidasi, when he took my vengeance, besocham. V'lo chilisi es b'nei Israel b'kinasi, and I didn't destroy the Jewish people. Pinchas turned back my wrath. Now, before anything, I want to show you something absolutely amazing. Turn back to Parshas Kisisa. Keep your finger on the place here. And go to the book of Shmos, Parshas Kisisa. It starts on page 484. And you have to see this inside. This is truly remarkable. Really remarkable. On page 484, the Torah begins talking about, the Jewish people, when they wanted to be counted, how did they take a head count? Machatzis shekel. They gave the half shekel coin. Okay? Now, I want you to take a look on page 484, 4 lines from the top of the page. 4 lines from the top of page 484. And the Torah says, Ze yitnu kol over al pikudim. This is what they should give. Machatzis shekel. They should give a half shekel coin. Now, what they're giving is tzedakah. Right? A machatzis shekel is tzedakah. And we know that tzedakah saves from death. There's a pasuk that says, tzedakah tatzil mimavis. Charity saves from death. Why is that? Erev Yom Kippur, you got all these plates in the shuls, and Jews are throwing money into plates on Erev Yom Kippur. You know those plates they have in the shul? Jews are throwing money into plates, right? Why? Because tzedakah tatzil mimavis. You could rescind a decree of death by giving tzedakah. Why does tzedakah save? Or why is it about tzedakah that a person has a death sentence, he gives tzedakah, he could actually rescind the death sentence? Why is that? There are 2 reasons, 2 basic reasons. Number 1, practical. The practical reason is, imagine you have a poor man. He's hungry. He hasn't eaten 4 days. He's dying of starvation. A loaf of bread or a roll costs 10 cents. And the guy at the store is sick and tired at the bakery of this guy giving him a discount. He's not going to sell it to him. The guy has 9 cents, and you give him a penny. The penny that you gave him, he's now able to buy the bread, takes the bread, and he eats the bread, he stays alive. You saved him from death. With 1 penny, you saved him from death. Your penny pushed him over. You say, everybody who gave a penny now participated. Tzedakah tatzil mimavis. You can actually save a guy. But you give a guy food, you give a guy something to eat, he could buy food. You actually literally save him from death. You know how these stories go, and then the poor guy makes a lot of money, and he becomes really rich, and then he rewards you and gives you lots and lots of money, all because of that penny he gave. Okay, maybe yeah, maybe no. But you certainly saved him from death, number 1. Number 2,
Question.
Yeah.
If a Bezdin sentenced someone to death, and then the guy gives tzedakah.
No, that ain't going to work. Good question. Once Bezdin sentenced somebody to death, you can't buy your way out. It says it openly, actually. It says openly that the Torah says, do not, lo sikhu kofer lemes. You do not take a guy who's sentenced to death. The guy says, you know what, I'll donate money to the shul. I'll build a mikveh, I'll build a school, I'll build everything. I'll take money and let me buy my way out of death. The Torah says openly you cannot buy your way. Once you're sentenced to death, you can't buy your way out of it.
Can you do that on the way to Bezdin? Give some tzedakah?
It's a good idea to give tzedakah, that maybe Bezdin will find some merit for you, but you can't buy your way out the way we normally think of buying our way out. Okay, that you can't do. Number 1. I'll get to what I just. Number 1. Number 2, there's another reason. You see, when you work, why is it you have a guest in your house? You have a guest in your house. Guest stays by you for Shabbos. And you give him food, you give him drink, and you give him everything. And then the guest, after he's like, you've spent a lot of money on this guy. Motzei Shabbos, as he's leaving, he says, do you think you could give me $3? I can give you $3? Yeah. I'll give you $3. Get out of here, you bum. You vagrant. You have you $3, wash my dishes, and I'll think about it. What are you asking me for money for? And back in the day, you guys don't know anything what I'm talking about now, but back in the day, there used to be something called a long-distance phone call. It costs a lot of money. You go into somebody's house, if you ever made a long-distance call back on the old telephones, it was understood and expected you're going to offer to pay for the call or leave them money. That was just, you didn't make it. Long-distance calls cost a lot of money. Relative. And it was understood in somebody's house that when you ask, can I make a long-distance call, you're going to pay for the call because the calls cost money. It was. Now, why is it that a guest you've had for Shabbos, if he says, can I make a long-distance call, that you expect him to pay for? And it was universal. It was accepted. It was social. You are socially awkward if you didn't offer to pay for the call. Why is that? Because that's cash. Guy has a piece of chicken at your house. Guys eat some potatoes. Okay, that was already. I don't see. That's not cash in front of my eyes. A guy's making a long-distance call. A guy asks me for $3. I'm not giving you $3. You know why? Because we look at money and we understand that money costs part of my life. I worked. I put in time to earn that money. That took time off of my life to get that money. You give away money to tzedakah. What you're giving away is part of your own life. You're giving away your time. You're giving away part of your own life. Therefore, Mida keneged Mida, when God pays back, God says that could save. Giving away the money could save your life. You gave up your life. You understand what I mean? Because when you give tzedakah, I earned that money. That took me time to earn that money. And I didn't necessarily want to go to work to earn that money. I'm working because I need to earn the money, and I'm giving up time that I could have been using productively to watch a ball game. And instead, I went to work. And now you want that money, and I'm giving it to you. I gave up part of my life. Okay? Now, take a look at the word machatzitz by machatzitz shekel. Do you see where it says machatzitz shekel? Look at the middle letter of the word, fourth line, fourth word on page 484. Fourth line, fourth word. Look at the word machatzitz. What's the middle letter? Tzedakah. A tzaddik. The middle letter of machatzitz is a tzaddik, right? What's the first Hebrew word you think of when you hear the word tzaddik? What else? What's considered to tzaddik? That's what the word means. What other word is very closely associated with it? Tzedakah, which is exactly what this machatzitz shekel is. Now, look at the two letters on either side of that tzaddik. What do you see? On one side there's a ches, and on one side there's a yud. What does ches and yud stand for? Chai, life. When there's tzedakah, life is near. Look at the outside letters of that same word. You have a mem and a tuf, which is mace, which is death. Tzedakah brings life closer, and it pushes death off. Okay? Now, what was happening to the Jewish people just now before Pinchas took action? What was happening? There was a plague. Jewish people were dying, right? Turn back to where we were. Take a look at this. What does Hashem say? Second line from the top. Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen Heshiv es chamasi. He turned back my wrath. Look at that word chamasi. Careful, gentlemen. What are the two middle letters of chamasi? Mace. Death was close by. Those two letters were connected. He turns it back. What are the outside letters? Ches and yud, which is chai, which is life. Pinchas turned back my wrath. There was death, and he turned it back to the outside, which is where the life is. Right? That is what Pinchas has accomplished by killing Zimri, which should be an irony. Now let's take a look at one more pasuk. We'll see a super irony. What does God reward him with? Take a look. Lachein emor, 4 lines from the top. Hineni nosein lo es brisi shalom. I am going to give him my covenant of peace. Now, what is this covenant of peace exactly? According to some, it means that Pinchas, God is promising Pinchas, you don't have to watch your back. Zimri's relatives who you be concerned, you took them out, they're going to come after you. You don't have to worry, they're not going to come after you. You will have peace. You could sleep comfortably at night. That's one opinion. There's another opinion. Brisi Shalom means that Pinchas never dies. There's a covenant of peace. Shalom. He will never experience death. And according to our tradition, who does Pinchas turn into eventually? Eliyahu. Pinchas turns into Eliyahu. The prophet Elijah is prophet Eliyahu. Navi is Pinchas. Okay? Now, I want you to imagine something. I told you a story once. There was a guy on August 6th, 1945. There was a Japanese guy who was living in a city called Hiroshima on August 6, 1945. August 6, 1945 was really not a good time to be living in Hiroshima because Hiroshima got nuked. So this Japanese guy, Yenko Nagasaki or whatever his name was, he decided he survived the Hiroshima bomb, and he decided that he does not want to stay in Hiroshima. So he decided he's going to move. So he moved up the coast to a city called Nagasaki. And on August 9th, 1945, probably the worst place in the world to be was in Nagasaki. And this Japanese guy survived the nuke in Nagasaki, and he died a couple years ago at the age of about 91. So now they have statistics that show that nukes are good for your health because he went through 2 of them and he lived to 91. How's right there? It's like the guy who was smoking cigarettes and he said, "I once read cigarette smoking is bad for your health, so I immediately quit reading." Right? I'll take care of it. So he was what he called. So this Japanese guy, whatever Yokomoso, whatever his name was, he you wouldn't know even if I told you the real name. So you don't know if I'm making a name up or not. So he survived 2 nuclear attacks. Okay, good. Then that shows you that God survived. There was a woman in the United States who won $1 million scratch off, She won $1 million scratch off. Then I think 6 months later, she won another $1 million scratch off. And they asked the statistician, what are the odds, what are the chances of a person winning $2 million scratch offs within 6 months? I don't know how they calculate, whatever it is, like 1 in 463 million. That means more than the entire population of the United States. Take all the phone books in the United States, put them together, and pick one name out of all the phone books. So that's, by the way, that's how my brother convinced me that it is not wise to buy a lottery ticket. I said, well, someone's got to win. So my brother said, okay, I'm thinking of one name on one page of a phone book. Which name am I thinking of? So I'm looking like, whoa, that's going to be tough. He's thinking of one name on one page of the phone book. Where it says, okay, now this is the Yerushalayim phone book. Now what if it's one name out of the entire phone book? I said, yeah, that's going to be pretty rough. He says, good. Your chances of winning the lottery are taking 10 of those phone books, putting them together and picking one name. So this woman won 1 in 463 million, something like that. What are the chances? The odds are remarkably against you, right? God's not limited by the odds. That's the lesson of the story. This guy survived. I just want you to imagine. I forgot, what was the name of the guy who dropped the bomb? The guy who flew the pilot who flew the plane that dropped the bomb. The little, what the bomb was called? What was the bomb was called? The little.
There was Fat Boy and Little Man.
The Fat Boy and Little Man. Yeah, Little Man wants a little, but yeah, or Fat Boy was the first one, wasn't it? Yeah. I think Fat Boy was or Little Boy and Fat Man. I forgot what it was. What was it? What's the name? Yeah, that was the name of the plane. I forgot the name of the guy who dropped it. All right, now imagine the guy who dropped the bomb on Hiroshima, kills 100,000 people, then they give him an award. What award would he expect him to get? A Purple Heart, bravery, something. Imagine him getting the Nobel Peace Prize. Right? The Nobel Peace Prize. That's what he got for dropping a bomb and turning people into pieces. That's why he gets a Nobel Peace Prize. Right? So what were you going to say?
He stopped over 1 million
Oh,
people from dying.
very good. Very good. You could make an argument, sure. You killed a few people, but look what you stopped. World War II would have kept going, and millions of people would have died, and you put a stop to it. So put a stop to it with a little bit of violence. It's like a father spanking a child. Child's running around wild in the house. Father spanks him. Father gets a peace prize because this kid would have turned the house upside down, right? So Pinchas commits. You see the irony in Torah. You see how Torah views things. Pinchas commits the single most graphic act of violence you find anywhere in Torah, and he's rewarded a peace prize. And their answer is because the Torah's attitude of peace is not live and let live. The liberal attitude, live and let live. You're not bothering me, and I'm not bothering you. You do your thing, and I'll do my thing. That's not a Torah attitude. The Torah attitude is justice has to be carried out at all costs. Carrying out justice, the Gemara says, when the wicked are destroyed, it's as if a person who kills the wicked, assuming they deserve to die, I think you mentioned about Beis Din executing somebody. When Beis Din executes a wicked person, it's as if an offering has been offered to God on the altar. Because you did what God wanted you to do. That's what determines whether or not they deserve a peace prize. Pinchas creates peace between God and the Jewish people. And therefore, Pinchas is awarded Brisi Shalom, the covenant of peace, and from this point on, he becomes a Kohen. Now, take a look at Pasuk Yud Dalet. So, Justin, you were going to answer a question. Go ahead.
You were saying when you have a death sentence, you were referring to a death sentence from heaven, not from rabbinical court, correct?
It depends. What context did I say it in?
It was several thoughts ago.
Several thoughts ago. So it depends. What he asked was a death sentence from the court. The court sentences somebody to death.
Because I know the one from heaven, there's an atonement process.
Right. That's because it said heaven. In the court, you could have a guy, if the court sentences a Jew to death when he's 17 years old for doing something wrong, adultery, idol worship, murder. He runs away. He goes off to another country. He becomes a Baal Tshuva. He comes back 50 years later with a long white beard and a whole slew of disciples. And he gives brachas, and people line up for him to get brachas from him. When the court gets hold of him, they're still going to execute him. The court does not have a right to rescind or bypass their ruling, no matter what the person, because we are human beings, and human beings have to carry out the law. Nati, what are you going to answer?
So, you said it's because of that he got the kahuna?
That's the very next line. God says, in the very next pasuk, it says, Vaisalo zarchav bris kahuna solam. The descendants, the Kohanim, and according to some, all Kohen Gadol came from Pinchas. Because he took vengeance for his God, and and he created an atonement for the Jewish people. And if you look in the very first pasuk over here, by the way, it says Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen.
Right.
Now, why does the Torah emphasize that he is the grandson of Aaron, who also is a Kohen? Two things it emphasizes. Number one, he's a grandson of Aaron, and number two, he's a Kohen. Why does the Torah emphasize that?
That's because Aaron was a Kohen after he was born. He was appointed Kohen.
But why does the Torah emphasize that now when it comes to Pinchas? When the Torah says the Pinchas, God says to Moshe, Pinchas, the grandson of Aaron HaKohen, took vengeance for me. Why does God emphasize he's the grandson of Aaron HaKohen? What's the Torah trying to teach us with that? We know Aaron's a Kohen. For whenever he began, why is the Torah emphasizing that? There are two reasons.
He's not an average person.
He's not an average person.
That's right.
He's got,
His name.
not only he's not an average person, he's got two strikes against him that an average person doesn't have. Got two strikes against him. You know what he does? Number one, his grandfather was Aaron HaKohen, who's the peace-loving person. This is not a kid who was raised violent. It's not a violent kid. This isn't a kid who grew up in a dysfunctional home who got beaten up by his father. This is a kid who was a grandson of Aaron HaKohen, who's the peace-loving person of the Jewish people, number one. Number two, do you know that there's a halacha that if a Kohen kills somebody unintentionally, let's say Kohen's driving his car, chas v'shalom, Kohen kills somebody in a car in an accident, unintentionally. Do you know that a Kohen is not allowed to do the Birkas Kahuna after that? He's not allowed to give the priestly blessing if he killed somebody unintentionally?
Ever again?
I think there's a certain point where he could, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But certainly at that for a certain point, I'm not sure what the limitation is. But a Kohen is not allowed to do the priestly blessing. Now the Kohen wanted to do the priestly blessings, and it might be limitations on serving in the base of Midas as well, if I'm not mistaken. So the last thing Kohanim had in their house, they didn't have spears around. Where there are guns go off accidentally periodically. Oops, somebody shot somebody. Where there are no guns, nobody shoots anybody. In a Torah home, the worst thing that happens is once in a while somebody pokes somebody with a chess piece. Right? But nobody's running around with a spear in a Torah home. There are no spears. Kohanim collect stamps. They don't play with spears. So Pinchas, where did you come from? Where did you come from? To the contrary, the Torah wants to emphasize, you know what the greatness of Pinchas is? He doesn't have any training, not in personality and not in weaponry. He comes from a line of peace-loving people. He's not a person who's playing with spears and playing bow and arrow. And when he sees something needs to be done, he goes against his nature, and he picks up a spear, and he goes over and he kills him because the guy needed dying real bad, as they used to say in the Westerns. He needed dying real bad, right? And Pinchas picks up a spear because that's what the guy needed. And therefore, the Torah says, as a result of that, he gets this blessing. Okay, tomorrow we'll continue in Ritz Hashem with further blessing and how great Pinchas' action was.